Hey community, my name is Janelle. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my new videos. Experiencing prolonged trauma or single traumatic events can be challenging and difficult to say the least. I've noticed that some folks with a history of trauma, they tend to struggle with experiencing emotional intimacy, which is a sense of closeness through sharing thoughts and being vulnerable with the other person. In this video, I've identified 4 reasons why emotional connection is difficult for folks going through the healing process of trauma, and I also discuss strategies to overcome those challenges. Let's get started. Reason number 1, experiencing trauma can create a lack of trust in others. It's understandable to be guarded and protective, especially if you've experienced prolonged trauma or any type of trauma in childhood, adolescence, or adulthood. Prolonged trauma, whether it's physical, sexual, verbal, or emotional, or psychological, creates a lack of trust, fear of vulnerability, lack of emotional and physical safety, fear of rejection, and fear of abandonment. It puts us in a them versus us situation. Although we long for true connection, the fear of getting hurt becomes very overwhelming. Our defenses are up and our nervous system becomes dysregulated. When our nervous system is activated, our brain detects a threat. We then engage in behavior that upholds the perceived threat. How can we possibly connect with someone if our brain is screaming at us that this person is not safe and we're in a dangerous situation? Alarm bells are going off and everything you feel is valid. You may decide that the world can be a very scary place because you lack trust in humanity. Your experience has convinced you that people can't be trusted, and it's safer to operate in the world alone. Although you feel safe, you may also feel lonely. When we isolate out of protection, we don't have to be vulnerable with others. Once upon a time ago, your vulnerability was probably weaponized against you, leaving you feeling rejected or dismissed. Maybe you were told that you're too sensitive, maybe your tears were manipulative, or that your emotions mean nothing. So yes, it's completely understandable why you are guarded. Take out a sheet of paper and write down 1 to 2 memories from childhood, adolescence, or adulthood that has contributed to your lack of trust. Start by searching your childhood. Select a topic to explore, such as parents, extended family, school, or friends. Write down how these situations impacted you then and how they impact you now as an adult. Identify what you need in order to feel safe. What are some patterns of behavior that has kept you in a cycle of dysregulation and disconnection from others? We want to separate the past from the present. Hold space for your thoughts and feelings from the past, but acknowledge that you are safe in the moment. You are no longer in a situation that caused you to be guarded. Ground yourself in the present by taking some deep breaths, look around you, hold yourself, and say out loud, "I'm safe." You don't want to invalidate your past experiences, but you don't want to stay stuck in it either. Acknowledge that there are good people in this world who mean no harm. Start by joining an activity or engage in a hobby with a small group of people, and slowly allow yourself to open up to others. If you feel like you can't do this alone, reach out to a professional for support. Reason number 2, you have a maladaptive schema. We believe that the negative thoughts we have about ourselves will be seen by others. Something is wrong with me. I just know people will notice. I'm not worthy. Of course people don't want to be my friend. They can see right through me. This type of narrative is known as a maladaptive schema. Early maladaptive schemas are negative themes or patterns in your thoughts and feelings that repeat throughout your life. People develop this in response to difficult childhood experiences. As adults, they influence how we see and respond to our experiences in unhelpful ways. For the child or adolescent, they internalize negative thoughts about themselves to explain why they were treated with such cruelty. As they get older and they try to explore connection through friendship or romantic partnership, the negative schema that was developed in our past tends to impact the types of connections we now form. It also impacts our behavior in relationships, whether it's romantic or platonic. We may hide what we perceive to be flaws, and those flaws are needs, wants, vulnerability, and a desire to be loved. And we do so by engaging in perfectionism and not allowing true emotional intimacy to evolve out of fear of rejection. You may feel misunderstood in social settings, resulting in you questioning yourself and overthinking how you came across in certain conversations. This belief that you are unworthy or that something is wrong with you may not be at the forefront of your mind. However, you may exhibit it in your actions. For example, you may self-sabotage your relationships by pushing people away. Maybe you experience extreme jealousy, or perhaps you constantly ask your friends, why do they like you? Or you ask your partner, are you sure you want to be with me? You feel like you'll be exposed as someone who is dirty, shameful, or undeserving. The negative schema can also push you into isolation out of fear of rejection or being seen as flawed. As much as you want connection, your deep-rooted shame keeps you on the sidelines and prevents you from being vulnerable enough to connect with others. Recognize where the negative schema stems from, meaning whose words have you internalized? Sometimes we need to go backwards in order to move forward. Revisiting memories linked to your unmet needs and comforting your inner child can heal the pain linked to your schema. For example, if you have a belief that there is something wrong with you, revisit your childhood. Recognize roughly where the belief stems from. Is it mom, dad, siblings, peers, society? Maybe it wasn't one particular moment in time. Maybe it was several situations. Perhaps nothing you did was ever good enough for your parents. Maybe they criticized you, they ignored you, and they constantly put you down. Maybe you were constantly rejected by your peers. They would never allow you to fit in no matter how hard you tried. Create a flashcard. This will remind you that there are two sides to be aware of. It also helps you fight the negative schema by reminding yourself about self-love. For example, if your schema is I'm defective or there is something inherently wrong with me, write the following. Even though I believe that I'm inferior and inadequate around new people, I know this isn't true. I'm being triggered by my childhood memories of never fitting in and being called out by my peers. I'm a great person, I am smart, I am competent, I am funny, and I'm sensitive. I'm worthy of kindness and love. I have to allow people to get to know me instead of making assumptions and wearing a mask. This is a scary process, but I give myself permission to make a solid connection and allow others to see the real me. Reading this card every day will help you realize the truth and live in the present. Number 3, you have an underdeveloped self. Having an underdeveloped self can cause significant impairment in decision-making, engaging socially, positive connection, and self-esteem, just to name a few things. I previously mentioned in one of my other videos that it's not just about what happened to us, it's also about what didn't happen. When you were in constant fight or flight, we experience impairment in certain developmental areas. For example, when kids were playing tag in the park, learning how to socialize and create friendships, you had to stay home. Maybe you had to clean the house because your dad would rage if it weren't spotless, or perhaps you stayed home to protect your mom from your dad's rage. You also didn't have many friends in high school. The friendships were already formed and you didn't know how to interject yourself. At lunch, you sat alone and avoided all social events. You felt embarrassed and different. You knew your family was different from the rest. No one knew what you were going through. Whatever the situation, you weren't able to be a kid or a teenager and mature and grow in certain developmental arenas. This in turn impacts your self-confidence, your self-esteem, decision-making, and your socialization skills, among other things. For example, as an adult, you try to socialize at work. Everyone seems so outgoing and they discuss all activities they did over the weekend. You want to connect, but you don't know how. You feel anxious and inferior at the thought of interacting. You believe that you are socially awkward, boring, and weird. Instead of making what can be potentially an embarrassing comment, you stand on the sidelines and fade into the background. Connecting with others can be deemed too risky, so you miss out and isolate yourself from others. deep down, you feel lonely. Develop self-compassion. Understand the complexities of what caused your underdeveloped self. Similar to the last strategy, revisit your past. Try to avoid comparing yourself to folks who may not have had the same experiences that you went through. Remind yourself that your sense of self is underdeveloped not because of something you did, but because you were trying to survive your environment. Write down your perceived flaws and challenge them. Also, ask yourself, are they really flaws? If you call yourself boring, what does that even mean? Is it truly a bad thing? People will like you for you. Give them a chance and give yourself a chance. Feel your uncomfortable emotions and sit with them. Validate them and allow self-compassion. You are your own worst critic and you are being triggered by past events. Write down what you can't change about yourself and work on self-acceptance, meaning recognize the positive qualities you like about yourself and work with what you have. Number 4, you don't know how to connect emotionally. Think about this for a moment. You may have grown up in an environment where emotions were considered weak, or anytime you expressed your emotions, you were called manipulative, a baby, or a complainer. Perhaps you were made to feel that your emotions were a burden, or your parents were emotionally distant and they didn't value emotions, or they didn't recognize their own emotions. How would you know how to connect emotionally if you were emotionally neglected? It would be pretty difficult for you to tap into your emotions freely without fear, judgment, shame, embarrassment, or criticism. You may find yourself developing unhealthy patterns of behavior such as being cold, dismissive, demanding in relationships, have porous boundaries, engage in people-pleasing, or your rejecting of others' emotions. You may also feel constant disappointment in relationships, fall in love with unavailable people, or give to others who cannot or won't give back to you. Deep down, you feel emptiness and a belief that you're going to be alone because you don't know how to connect with others, or others don't know how to connect with you. You don't realize that if someone gets too close, you start to distance yourself. No matter what the situation, you wind up in an environment that is emotionally depriving and reminiscent of your childhood. I modified the following questions from the book Reinventing Your Life by Jeffrey Young. And you can ask yourself the following. Number 1, did I feel close to my primary caregiver, whether it's mom or dad? Number 2, did I feel like they understood me? Number 3, did I feel loved? Number 4, did I love my caregiver? Number 5, did they provide me with warmth and affection? And number 6, could I tell them what I felt? And number 7, could they give me what I needed? When answering these questions, avoid minimizing your true feelings and making excuses for your caregiver. Look at it from the lens of a child, not the lens of an adult. Work on identifying your needs and wants. Recognize that to be vulnerable is only to be human. You will feel uncomfortable, but normalize these feelings. Identify that your needs are important because it helps you determine the type of connection you hope to make. It helps with setting boundaries and setting realistic expectations for yourself and the people around you. Review past relationships and friendships. Identify your patterns of behavior that need to be altered. Avoid cold partners who elicit high chemistry, meaning if there is only romantic chemistry, then the relationship may not work. If you are demanding with unreasonably high expectations, stop blaming your partner or friends for not meeting those needs. Recognize that there are some needs we have to meet ourselves internally. This one will definitely take time. Connecting emotionally with others after experiencing trauma isn't easy. There is a lot of work we have to do on ourselves in order to get to a place of trust. Be gentle, be kind, and be the role model your inner child needed in the past, and be the friend you need in the present. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my new videos. Bye for now.